What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be working on the rally car. Pretty much the only car that I work on my channel because it's pretty much the only car I work on. But actually this weekend I was planning on taking this autocrossing. Didn't end up happening because I decided to put some work into my truck. Did a bunch of stuff on that, got AC going in it, changed the fuel filter, fuel pump, stuff like that in it. I obviously didn't film any of it. Just because I wanted to kind of just get it done as quickly as possible, and it does add a lot of time when you film. I'll start filming more on probably all my cars. I don't know, you guys let me know if that's what you want to see, or if you just want to see rally footage of this car being built. But I definitely have multiple projects. I'll try not to include too many boring things that I do to my cars, like cleaning my garage and doing like oil changes and stuff like that. You guys don't want to watch that. But anyway, I'll get off my tangent and we'll actually get to what I'm working on today. So we got this. This is a oil cooler. They just got a universal Mishimoto oil cooler. They do make kits for Subarus, for any car pretty much, and you will get AN lines, fittings, everything that you need, including an oil filter, sandwich plate, all that kind of good stuff. But I found that they're significantly more money than if you just try to buy all the pieces separately. So we got a whole bunch of AN line, so we're going to be making our own lines. We also have a new sandwich plate adapter. This is thermostatic, which I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then we have obviously the oil cooler. So I think that's the only things you need, and that's usually what comes in a kit. Maybe a mounting bracket as well, but it's not hard to just make your own. You'd even go get like the cheap angle iron that they sell at like Home Depot, Lowe's, that already have like pre-drilled holes, and it literally will just take away all fabrication that you need to do. Of course, that's going to look kind of janky, but you can easily make a mount if you want to, without even needing a welder or anything like that, and just piggyback off one of the mounting points that actually are on the front of the car. So the reason that I actually think that I need this oil cooler is during the last rallycross, and actually the stage rally that we did in March, we were seeing some pretty high oil temperatures, especially once I started pushing the car more during the stage rally, which it was pretty cool outside. It was probably like 60, 70 degrees out because it was still early in the year. So weather really didn't attribute to like causing too much of a negative effect on the oil. But this last weekend, or whenever we went to the rallycross, we were noticing some pretty high oil temperatures. And those runs are pretty stinking short. So it's like 70 to 80 second long runs. And we were seeing some pretty high oil temperatures. So definitely need to do something before STPR, because it's still going to be hot out. Not as hot as it was before, which was like 100 degrees at that rallycross, but it's still going to be pretty warm, and it's going to be on gravel. So I'm going to be able to push the car a little bit more rather than kind of having to lug it in the sand like we did in Sandblast. But it's probably going to actually be a little bit easier because it isn't sand and it's not going to drag as much on the car. But I'll probably try to go a little bit faster this time because there will be less resistance, hopefully not into a tree. Yeah, that would be bad if we do that. So we definitely don't want to do that. Now this car didn't come stock with an oil cooler, which is why I think that it's so essential that I need to add one. And there is an easy mod because WRXs, STIs, even newer EJ251s that come in like newer RSs or Foresters from the same year all have an oil cooler. It uses your coolant to actually warm up and cool the oil as it gets up to temperature. Now the bad thing is if your car starts to overheat with coolant, because like it starts getting too hot that way, it's going to overheat your oil, which if your oil's too hot, that could lead to excess heat actually getting into your coolant, and then that could lead to more problems, and they're not that efficient as it is. But for a street car, and if you're seeing kind of high temps during like rallycross, autocross, or anything like that, it's definitely an easy mod. You can do that super cheap. You just need like the coolant pipe, the actual oil cooler itself that goes in pretty much the same location as the sandwich plate. But for my application, I really don't think that'll be enough, and it's not really worth going through the pain of having to do that, which I do have all those pieces because I actually have a spare EJ251 that I'm looking at right now with that oil cooler on it. It's actually like right in front of me. And it has everything that I would need on there. But like I said, I don't think it's worth it for this application because it's still not going to be enough to keep the oil cool. So we're going to go with the Mishimoto or any style. It really doesn't matter. You can buy a cheap eBay one. It's probably not going to work as well depending on the design, like if it's tube and fin or bar and plate, depending on what it is. So you just kind of have to check and see what works best. But then again, if you're going for something cheap or just like for looks on a street car, then it doesn't really matter. I definitely recommend buying good AN lines though, so you don't have to worry about them leaking or having like a terrible fitment. I just bought all mine in bulk from anfittings.com. I don't know. something like that, the website, but they sold them pretty cheap, probably cheaper than Summit. Pretty quick shipping too, and I got a whole bunch of different fittings, like in spares, just in case I don't know exactly how I'm gonna route this yet, or how I want the fittings to go. So I got some 90 degrees, I got some straights, so we'll see. Whatever works best. All right, now that I've been rambling for the first 5 minutes of this friggin' video, we're gonna get to work. We're gonna see exactly what I have first, real quick. So obviously oil cooler, a whole bunch of AN lines right here as I launch the popcorn everywhere in the garage that I just kind of cleaned. And here's my thermostatic sandwich plate adapter. So the reason that I say thermostatic, so it's not going to open right away. It's going to wait until the oil actually gets up to temperature, just like I mean, obviously it's in the name, thermostat. This isn't as important because this is primarily a race car and it's not really driven on the street, so I'm not too worried about it. But on rallies that it's actually really cold outside, the oil is never going to get up to temperature, and that's actually going to cause poor performance out of your vehicle. And the oil will actually start doing some weird stuff where it'll like foam up, almost like turn to sludge because it doesn't get hot enough where it works at its operating temperature. So you definitely don't want to do that, especially if you run a thicker oil like I kind of do. You don't want to run too cool of oil. You want it to get up to temperature, which this one is a 4-port, so it's got these angled ports. These are going to be for the oil cooler to go into, and then I can still have ports for my oil pressure and oil temperature sensor to go into as well. Kind of nice, that way it's not just the two and then I have to find other locations for my gauges. Since my gauge sensor's already routed to the sandwich plate that's on here, I just have to replace the sandwich plate and then just literally go right into here, and then it'll be good. And then the adapter piece to go to a Subaru thread pitch, and then just fitting. So simple as that, not much to it. And now we gotta take the bumper off, figure out exactly where we're gonna mount this thing, because that's probably gonna be the worst part, and get this thing in the air, little stuff. So need to finally get to work, and it's hot as crap out, so I need to stop talking and get to work so I can go back inside and chill. Great thing about using zip ties to hold on your bumper. You can take it off in about, 5 minutes, not even. It took like 30 seconds to take that thing off. It took longer to get the thing in the air, way longer. So yeah, now we gotta come up with a way to mount this somehow without it being too jank. And I don't wanna block too much airflow going in the radiator. I don't know. We'll just have to mess around a little bit, try to figure out probably somewhere around here-ish or here. I don't know. I don't want it too low. I kind of want it recessed in a little bit so I hit this beam. If I can hit something light, that way I don't mess up the oil cooler and risk losing all my oil. I might hose this thing off once I'm actually done before I put the bumper on. I really need to hose the whole engine bay out because it is nasty. Still a bunch of dirt in here. Did a really bad job cleaning this thing after the last rally and the last rally cross too, so definitely gonna start doing a better job on that so I don't run into this kind of stuff corroding the entire car because it's already in a bad enough condition. So I'm thinking as far as mounting location, generally right in here. Should be relatively protected. It's pretty much right up against the radiator, not too close. I think it has a tiny gap. And then as far as mounting it, I think I'm just gonna make little brackets and then weld some nuts to them. Weld the actual bracket to the core support, so just grind this paint away. Zap on some MIG weld on there, and then it can just mount into it on both sides, and it'll actually help, because I don't know if you can see that, but that's my core support ripping away from the frame. Like I said, if you watch my earlier videos, this thing really needs a whole new tube front end because it was in a wreck, has a lot of issues. Like my skid plate, if I take a hard hit to the skid plate, it's just gonna rip this straight up because the skid plate's mounted into that. super secure. I think I should say super one more time. But yeah, it should be easy enough. That's what I'm saying now. But we'll see once I actually start working. It's going to be hard to kind of get in there, especially to mount it. That might be the most difficult part, to actually get bolts in there. All right, so I think I figured out exactly where I'm going to mount it, pretty much exactly where I showed you, because that's pretty much the only thing I could come up with. But I need to go grab some hardware real quick that'll actually fit these small holes, because the stuff that I have doesn't really fit that. So I need to get some nuts that I can weld to the back of the metal brackets that I'm going to be making, and then just weld them to the car with those pieces in. Should be pretty easy to mount. I'm probably only going to mount it today, depending on how long it takes, because I got some work stuff to do. And then we'll pick this up again after that with the actual making of the AN lines, and then installing the sandwich plate and all that other fun stuff, and routing it and making sure that it's not in a bad spot, like rubbing it on the header or something, where it's just gonna get ruined and then cause a fire. That'd be pretty bad. Definitely don't want to burn my car down like Ken Block did, because I can't afford to build a new one. Yeah, that wouldn't be fun. Just got back from getting some hardware. So the plan is, with these nuts, they're going to be welded on some 1/8 inch plates. So I'm literally just going to do something simple, clean up this area where it's going to weld, and it's actually going to serve as a dual purpose, since this is ripping my core support. The piece that I'm going to add to actually mount it is kind of going to help this a little bit. So we're going to weld a little chunk of it on here, kind of where my finger is. It's going to come off and then L down and attach to the lower part of the core support. Same thing over here, pretty much in the same fashion, except that it'll probably be a box with 3 sides rather than just an L, since there's no other side to weld it to, and then we'll just weld it in 2 spots going onto the bottom part of the core support. Should be pretty simple, and while it's out, we'll mark up the holes, make sure that we get it exactly where we need to, as far as where it lines up with these brackets that are already on the oil cooler, and then we'll weld the nuts on the back of it. Once these are welded on there, then we can weld it to the car. Just gotta make sure we clean up that area really well so we can actually get some decent penetration on there, so this mount's actually solid. A lot of talking, but it's actually time to start working, so probably cue the time lapse for a while. So the brackets are welded in there now. This is much sturdier. You can see that all of this isn't flexing like it was before, which is good. It gives it a little bit more strength, because this is what is holding up my hood, or holding closed my hood, that is. So if this rips out, like all of it together, like breaks, hood's gonna come up. But I guess I'd have more problems if the whole front end ripped off. Not the prettiest, because I didn't do the best job like getting rid of the paint. So I kind of just burned through it, kind of the lazy way to do it, but whatever. I just kind of like, when you start on the clean mild steel, you just like build up the puddle, and then you just like bring it down and it'll burn up whatever it is that is actually in the way. So hopefully nothing shifted too much or warped, so that I can still get these in there. If need be, I can make the holes a little bit bigger. Well, I'm super sweaty. I gotta get ready for work in the morning, and this is all I wanted to do for this part of the video, so I'll pick this up tomorrow when I start making the lines. So it's been a while since I've worked on the car, actually about a week. No time at all with work, but we got those welded up. Everything's good. Got to pull the skid plate off now. And then we're going to pull the oil filter off, the old sandwich plate that's on there, the Mishimoto one, or I think it's glow shift actually, so it's super cheap. But it was fine. Used Teflon tape and they don't really leak. And I am going to lose most of my oil, and I literally just changed the oil. Not a big deal. It is pretty cheap oil, because I did forget to replace the crush washer on the drain plug when I changed the oil. Actually, I think I forgot to put one on at all, because it's leaking oil out of that right now. So I'm going to lose all my oil, and it's brand new. Not a big deal though. So let's pull this off, and then we can start mocking it up. Figure exactly how we're going to route these AN lines, and how we're going to protect them so they don't get ruined. Well, I completely forgot about this, and you can easily see that this is a broken sensor. So this broke when I put the sandwich adapter in there initially, because it bottomed out, and these brass fittings are just super fragile, and they break really easily. And I just went a little too tight, over tightened it, and just kind of like separates from the nut part of it, and rips from the thread. So yeah, that's junk. I got a new one, but unfortunately we won't be able to install both sensors into this piece right now. We will throw the pressure sensor in there. I need to clean it up quite a bit. There's dirt all over it. We'll throw that in there, throw some Teflon tape on there so it doesn't leak at all. Need to clean this piece off, got like dirt and stuff in it. Once we do though, we'll throw it in the car, and it's all pretty much done. Everything's off of the car right now. Pretty much figure out exactly where I want to route the lines. I'm kind of torn right now in between either one line following down over here and then coming over, and then the other coming this way and around, because it's kind of tight. When you actually look at like how these fittings come out with the header clearance and the radiator fans, because it is kind of a weird angle. But we'll see. Either that, or I'll do both lines coming this way all the way around. That's probably what I'll end up doing, but we'll see what looks best once I actually throw the sandwich plate on and we start messing with where we want to route it all. So I have it kind of mocked up. I don't know if you can see, there's kind of like a weird glare coming up from through the engine bay. But I think this is the way that I'm going to do it, because it is super tight around here. And if I have them both going the same direction, it gets a little bit tighter. There we go, you can kind of see it a little bit. So I think I'm going to do it this way, with one going to the short direction, kind of like the quick route on the passenger side up through the firewall, and then to the oil cooler on the other side of the radiator. And then this one's kind of going to take a longer route, so it's pretty much going to come from here all the way down here, follow the radiator, and then come up through here, following the frame rail to the front as well. I think that'll be the easiest, so I'm going to mock up, kind of get a distance and length that I need to make these things. So here's the oil cooler all tucked up in there and mounted completely. I did run a rubber hose in between the back of the oil cooler and the radiator because they were really close and they were kind of touching, and I really didn't want metal on metal contact because both of these are probably going to be vibrating quite a bit as we run, because the core support is not at all solid at all, because we don't want that. So that's going to pull out the oil cooler a little bit away from the radiator, so we shouldn't have any issues with these rubbing on it. And then these aren't rubbing on the radiator either. The hose is going on top. So I made sure that I mounted them and routed them to where they weren't rubbing on anything. There's a small gap between that one, which I'll probably put something in between there just in case they do hit, because it is close. And then, like I said, on this side, the side's already good, so probably just a zip tie over there. So essentially the oil cooler is completely done, and we're good with that. I just really wish I didn't ruin the sensor, because that was 20 bucks that I didn't need to spend if I didn't ruin it. That's the second one that I've actually cracked like that, and because it's literally like it feels mushy and you don't know if it's tight yet, and then all of a sudden it'll just snap. Second time I've done that on those, because they just don't feel like they're actually getting tight, even with using a tiny wrench and like barely applying any pressure, and I just strip them out. I don't know, but that is all I can do on the oil cooler right now. I do have some other little stuff that I'm probably gonna take care of tonight. I got to throw in some new fire extinguishers, because the ones that I have in there, well, they are rated to the same rating that you need for ARA. The handle actually has to be metal. That is actually actioning the fire extinguisher. So this is what I had in there before. It's plastic. It does meet the requirement for ARA as far as rating, like I was saying. So it's an ABC or whatever, BC2 or BC10, I think is the rating that it has to be. But because it's not metal, it wouldn't pass. So had to get these, which included new brackets. These were pretty expensive. Well, not too expensive. It's like 50 bucks, which, if you think about it, hopefully this will save my car in the event of a fire. So we're going to be throwing both of these in there, same spot. I just got to pull the mounts out that I had before. You have to have metal mounts per ARA rules as well. And a really easy way to mount it that I learned from another guy, actually Walter Clark, the guy that approved my cage and gave me the logbook for the car. He was saying use large hose clamps and just hose clamp the mount to a roll bar out of the way, and that's the easiest way to mount it, and you can get it super tight. You don't have to worry about it moving, and then you don't have to actually drill anything, rivet anything into the car. So if it breaks or anything, you got to replace them out. You don't have to like hack them out. You literally just loosen a hose clamp and they come right out. So just like that, switched them out. They're super easy to mount when you use hose clamps like I was talking about. And they're super sturdy too. So I mean, you can get the mount just as sturdy as the mount can actually hold it. These aren't the greatest mounts in the world, and I'd almost rather use like a, not a plastic, but like a sleeve, like a stretchy sleeve to hold it a little bit better. But I don't think those are approved. But they're easy to get out, which is important too if we need them. And that's kind of like my idea behind where I mounted them. And we got the part in the mail, finally. So it only took a couple days, not too bad. Amazon's super quick about stuff like that. Luckily they had it on Amazon. Definitely faster than most places that ship. So we can throw this in to the sandwich plate. Already got it out of the car. I also did a few other things on the car. I did tie rods, pulled the front sway bar off, other random little stuff like that. I decided that I'm going to try out no sway bars on the car and see how that does. Well, I drained the oil while I was off camera, and it's been a couple days, and I realized why I hate that oil container so much, and I really need to get a new one. Because it's literally everywhere. It didn't drain fast enough going down into the oil pan, so like literally 3 quarts of oil is on the ground, and it's pretty much brand new oil, and brand new oil is like very, very difficult to clean up, so that's awesome, and makes my clean garage a lot less clean, which it's not clean at all now. Because I did one project, and obviously I trash my garage every time I do one project. Alright, oil's in. Now's the moment of truth. We're going to start the car up, just start getting it up to temperature, see if there's any leaks in my lines. Hopefully not. That would really suck, because I'm going to lose a lot of oil, and I'm going to have to take all those lines off again and mess with them. So hopefully I did a good enough job the first time around. So far I've been pretty lucky with my AN lines. I haven't had to redo any, so knock on wood or metal, something. Won't have to do that this time. So I'm gonna grab the keys, fire this thing up. Well, no leaks. That's great. And game is still going strong. We've not messing up any of them yet so far, so hopefully they last too. Well, there was that one that I messed up a long time ago, making brake lines. I think that was the first time I ever did it. But yeah, so this is finally done. It's been 2 weeks almost in the making to get that done. It really sucked with work and not having tools and breaking parts on the cars too. So super annoying when that happens. It's good now, so hopefully we will see a lot cooler temps while we're running. We will be hopefully at less of a risk of breaking anything on the car by overheating. So when you do this kind of a mod to your car, you will see a little bit of a pressure decrease on your oil pressure, and that's because you're adding in kind of larger cavities with those dash 10 fittings. That's a lot bigger of an oil passage for it to go through, as well as the larger area that the oil cooler is actually going to make for the oil to go through. So in my case, it's not a big deal because I have the upgraded oil pump in here from an STI, which I was actually seeing pretty high oil pressure. I was actually kind of happy to see like an 8 psi drop in the oil pressure. Kind of nice. It's more of like a normal range now, where at idle it's only sitting at about 30 psi, 35-ish, and then full throttle it's probably going to be around 90 compared to before. It was almost at 100 psi. It was pretty high oil pressure. And the reason that I went with that pump was because I was planning on throwing in some looser clearance bearings in there, and I'd be able to kind of take advantage of a little bit more oil pressure because of that, and be able to run a little thicker of an oil too. But I ended up just buying a short block because I didn't have time to build one, and my old one was kind of beyond repair, and that shop messed up the old short block anyway that I dropped it off to when they honed it and they cleaned it and did all that kind of stuff. It's not really usable anymore. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox, stop talking. You guys have a good one, and we'll see you with something else that I got coming out next week.